Hello, friends. Welcome to a very special ATC Double Cut. I have a guest with me today who many of you will recognize from Turfgrass Twitter. It is Paul Hurst, the co-owner of Greens Pro and guitarist for the acoustic duo Midlife. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Thank you, Micah. So good to be here. I'm glad you said co-owner. That can be a sensitive topic. So I just want to make sure everybody knows I don't own the whole thing, but I'm proudly a co-owner. And Midlife, much like the Turf Twitter feed, continues to roll on and surprise me on a regular basis. So good to see you. So good, glad to be here, and I appreciate you having me on, my friend.
Well, thank you. I am glad to see you also, and it's nice to talk. I first noticed, I think during the pandemic, when a lot of people were stuck at home for a while and
Right.
not really able to get out to restaurants or meet people and socialize much. I started seeing coming through my Twitter feed, a lot of people were retweeting this guy and his wife playing songs and playing it well. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And
Yeah.
so, and then um, I, I eventually then you got into some comedy stuff. So can you tell me a little bit about your use of Turf Twitter?
Yeah. So, I've been on Twitter forever. I think there was this big run at the GCSAA show, the National or GIS, whatever you call it. But there were some guys that were really getting involved with Twitter. So I had never really been a part of it, but I was just a passive observer for a while. And then on a random night in COVID, I decided to film Christy and I singing a Cher song of all things. And it was called "Do You Believe in Love," which is the most bizarre, random song that we cover. And I filmed it, and maybe I had I don't know what I was thinking, but I put it on Twitter, and I had never posted really anything on Twitter, and it got a little bit of response. So next day I went into work talking to one of my business partners. He says, "Hey, you should do a video every night. We're locked down." So we were locked down for about 50 days here in St. Louis, Missouri. So Christy and I made a video for 50 days, and the amount of back rubs and foot rubs that I had to give Christy to keep participating every night. Begrudgingly, I would get her to sing some songs in front of the camera, and it was a ton of fun. I always tell people that Twitter has allowed me to play music in San Diego, allowed me to play music in Myrtle Beach, North Carolina, and allowed me to play music in Longboat Key, Florida. So the amount of impact those little 2-minute song videos had on people has been overwhelmingly humbling, and it's been really cool. So, and after
Well,
that, I'll go on here just to explain how I think we got where we're right here, Micah, is part of Twitter that maybe I have to be careful about not liking is the blatant selling of product. And a lot of my guys, my approach to sales is I don't have this huge sales pitch. I think sales to me is about relationships and about service and knowledge. But I had caught somebody on Twitter one time just doing a blatant sales approach about product and why you should buy their product and on and on and on. And I don't know, just like everything I do on Twitter at that moment, I decided to be the anti-sales guy and pretty much make fun of myself. So that's where the sales videos kind of stemmed from, and of course that has progressed into all the other nitwittery that I call it on a weekly basis, Micah. So, and the coolest part is I get to hang out and talk to all these doctors: Mike Richardson, John Kaminsky, Ben McGraw, and then clearly me aggravating, pestering, demanding that you pay attention to me, Micah, has culminated into this awesome moment where you chose to be like, "Hey, man, let's do this," and you're wearing a Greensboro hat. So, long story short, that's how we got here.
well, wonderful. Thank you for explaining that. and yeah, I've got so many questions, and
Please.
um I- with the ATC double cut, we have to, of course, give a double cut treatment to one of the blog posts. That's kind of the whole conceit of the show, is that
Okay.
each episode is related to, or as a starting point for discussion, we'll talk about one of the ATC blog posts. And
Right.
the blog post that I thought we can talk about is the Turf Twitter analysis, which I see that you ranked 13th this year, and I wonder, like sometimes it seems like you're doing the if you're looking, let's see, I'm trying to, am I showing that yet? I am showing
I
that.
see it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So go. How does that look? Does that shows the entire chart?
Yep.
So your Greens Pro account, which I encourage everyone to follow Greens Pro on Twitter. It's at Greens Pro, and you'd be following one of the most influential accounts in the entire turf industry. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's awesome. But um, I also don't like just like the pure sales stuff.
Right.
I I was interested as you become a little bit more well known globally through Twitter to the
Right.
point where you come to my attention. You've been a guest on a couple podcasts. I think one by Peter McCormick, I think,
Right.
interviewed you
Uh
for
huh.
TurfNet Radio, and and I came to find out that you used to be a golf course superintendent, which I
I
think
did.
is gave me even more respect for you.
Right.
And I'm like,
Right.
okay, so this guy knows what he's talking about. I was also a golf course superintendent for only
There you go.
three short years, but I like your approach to not doing the hard sell on products and just kind of joking
Right.
about it, because the customers often are going to know what they need, and
Correct.
you just need to provide that, and you don't need to go sell people things that they don't need. So
Correct.
uh,
Yeah.
so so you've got the music, you're sharing the music on Twitter, and you're also doing the comedy bit. Does that help your does it help your business locally? I mean, you're not trying to expand nationwide or anything, right? You're a
No.
regional
No. We're
distributor.
actually a fairly large distributor. So we're I tell people all the time, we're if you have a local grocery store you shop in, Micah, in Thailand, we are the local grocery store. We're an independently owned distributorship competing with major, huge houses, the Helenas of the world, the uh, ATSs of the world, the Simplots, the Heralds. So I'm very proud of the fact that we're locally owned. We're in about 6 states here in the United States, primarily the Midwest, and we're able to compete with these huge, large companies that, quite honestly, are able to get better prices, do some things a little bit differently. But I'm very proud of the service and the relationships that we've developed over the years with people here locally. And one of the things I like to talk about, as far as being a golf course superintendent, I spent almost 22 years on a golf course between starting there, an assistant, and then a superintendent. Is that I was in the heart of it, the transition zone here, the armpit, growing POA and Pencross in some really really tough conditions here in the Midwest. We are such a hodgepodge of grasses here: zoysia, Bermuda, fescue, ryegrass, bluegrass, POA. It is a Heinz 57 of turf here in the transition zone, and I honestly think we have some of the most talented uh, intensive turf managers here in my area here in the Mississippi Valley. So,
Yeah, I
uh,
think you have to be to grow grass in that type of climate, which
right,
is, I see that in Japan. Japan
right,
also probably less POA, but they have bent grass and they have zoysia. So what's
Right.
typical in Japan on 90% of the courses in Japan, you'll have cool season grass on the greens and warm
Right.
season grass everywhere else. And then, of course, when you have the warm season grass, that's no easy thing either, because if it gets weeds in it, it looks pretty horrid in the winter time. So you
Right.
have to control those weeds. And if you have zoysia, you have to deal with large patch, because large patch is pretty hideous if that's not controlled. So
Right.
yeah, and then you just got to keep your bent grass alive too. So I have a lot of respect for turfgrass managers anywhere in the world who are growing in the transition zone type of area,
Correct.
because
Yeah.
that's where my experience was as a golf course superintendent too. I was in Shanghai,
Right.
which is hot and has both cool and warm season grass, and then I was in that part of Japan as a superintendent also. So it's challenging.
It is. It is. Yeah.
So
I always tell guys that the one thing I can't sell you is how to water. And that is the key to success here in the transition zone. If you can figure out how to water bent grass, POA in the transition zone, 99 times out of 100, you're going to be very successful. So, my guys in this area that are the most successful superintendents, obviously they do things well operationally, but agronomically, knowing when to water, how much to water is the most critical thing you can be taught when you come up growing grass in our area.
when you started as a golf course
Mm-hmm.
superintendent or as an assistant,
Uh huh.
was wetting agent use as common as it is today?
There were, but I don't know if you remember the old Surfside ads coming up. They had very intricate ads on how they marketed and sold product. Uh, really didn't start using wetting agents even as maybe as a superintendent. God, how long have I been doing this? Maybe 25 years ago. But not as much as they're marketed now. I mean, we had very few. We had Surfside, maybe a little Cascade. Uh, Trying to think of a few others. Maybe some of the Aquatrolls products, but not nearly as many the options there are today.
Yeah, I think
Toughest thing in the world to sell, Michael. I'll tell you that right now. Anybody that can go into your office and say they can recommend the best wetting agent for you, they can't, because they're not specifically in your situation, your climate. Very difficult to sell. Make recommendations on it. Have guys try it, but still one of the hardest things in the world.
I it's something that in the 1990s I saw some people using it, some people didn't use it, and I
Right.
just when I was a golf course superintendent, it was in the 1990s, and I thought I'm just going to water properly, and
Hmm.
I'm not going to put any wetting agents, because I was afraid that they might change something, maybe make it too wet or something, which is,
Right.
I understand now that that's not really going to happen, because if I don't put water, it's impossible for it to get too wet.
Right.
And I would definitely be using wetting agents today. So
Right.
that's something that I think it allows you to actually put less water. And I know the
Sure.
Mike Richardson and especially Doug Karcher, when he was down
Right.
at University of Arkansas, they've done a lot of research there, and the pictures that they show of bank grass greens towards the end of the summer, where it has had a wetting agent and where
Right.
it hasn't had a wetting agent, are there are
Right.
profound differences. Now,
Absolutely.
it's not so much a profound difference between the different types of wetting agents or the different brands of wetting agents. It's more that there are a number of products that all do essentially
Right.
or can provide the same result,
Right.
which is grass that's still alive at the end of summer with slightly less water and certainly less
Exactly.
localized dry spot.
Right. Mike Richardson told me to tell you today hello. So that's my one plug.
Oh, nice. Well, Mike, if you are watching or listening to this, hi back to you. And I am also sometime going to have him on here to talk
Oh,
about
I love it.
something
Yeah.
exciting. I think you know what I want to have Mike on here to talk about is green speed of zoysia, because he's
Okay.
had grad students that are doing some research on that, and
Right.
there's a lot of zoysia grass greens in Southeast Asia and in East
Okay.
Asia. And in the United States, there is a lot of zoysia used on fairways. But in Asia, there's also zoysia used in rough, and there's zoysia used on tees and on putting greens. And there's a reason why in Japan, the 90% of the golf courses are bent grass greens and zoysia everywhere else. And it's because bent grass has a much better ball roll,
Right.
and there are some difficulties in getting good ball roll on zoysia. And Mike's been doing some research about that,
Yeah.
and I would like to talk with him about that. Do you
Yeah, I
see
was
any
down.
zoysia?
I went and saw the whole facility a couple weeks back, and yeah, he had a bunch of Bermuda down there, some different Bermudas and some Zoysia. Our program here at the University of Missouri has kind of declined since Lee Miller went to Purdue. So Mike and Wendell Hutchins are going to kind of be our new go-to guys there to help us with diseases in the transition zone and helping us with some things here in Missouri. So, but I got an opportunity to go down there and see the facility, talk to some of his students, and it was a great experience. So
Cool.
Mike's a good guy.
Yes, I went to the field day there in
Okay.
I think early August of 2016,
Okay.
and that was wonderful, and I would like to go back. And
Yeah.
Mike's kind of had an open invitation for me to go
Yeah.
back, and
Yeah.
it's just a matter of me getting myself to that part of the world.
I like it. I like it.
So I use Twitter, and I use Twitter, as you would see, and I will put up my Twitter account at Asian Turfgrass in case you'd like to follow me on Twitter if you don't already. I use Twitter generally to share information. So I'm often sharing links to things. It's often things that I have written myself, and I joined Twitter in 2010, I believe, because Dave Wilbur, who is at Turfgrass Zealot on Twitter,
Right.
Dave
Right.
Wilbur had shared he shared a link on Twitter to one of my blog posts. And nobody was reading my blog, but of course I'm passionate about turfgrass, and I was writing about it in 2007, 2008, 2009. Nobody was reading it. And I didn't know how to get people to pay
Right.
attention to what I was doing, but I wanted people to pay attention to the work that I was doing. And I noticed all of a sudden that there was a 300 or 500% increase one day in the number of view counts. And I thought, wow, where did that come from? So I checked it, and it tracked back to it had been shared on Twitter by Dave Wilbur. And I thought, wow, I
Right.
always said I'm not going to share, oh, I woke up this morning, oh, I'm having Wheaties for breakfast. Oh,
Yeah.
I thought that that's what Twitter was.
Yep.
And I'm like, I don't need to tell people like every little useless thing about my life and what I'm doing at the moment. And then I realized, wow, if that's if that's where people are going to read and pay attention to what I'm doing, then I'm going to join. So I created an account the same day. And
Right.
I've kind of used Twitter over the past 13 years or so in that way, where I try to send about one tweet per day with some link to some type of turfgrass information.
Right.
And so that then it in about 2017, 2016, 2017, I started to realize that Twitter had an API that had a lot of data on tweets and data on different accounts. And I
Right.
realized that I could start analyzing it because I was interested. Accounts like John Kaminsky's account, who is I Tweet Turf, he
Sure.
has tons of followers and gets lots of interaction and stuff. And I wanted to see, well, how does interaction with my tweets compare to his and other well-known accounts, Turfgrass Zealot, Dave Wilbur, and so on.
Right.
I wanted to see if people are paying attention to what I'm doing in a like how does that compare to other people. So that's when I started doing that turf Twitter analysis, which is it's basically just out of curiosity.
Right.
But it's interesting to me because I typically don't follow people who are just sharing things that are not really related to turfgrass. Now your
Right.
stuff. So when you were just doing the music videos,
Uh-huh.
that and I didn't know you personally, so I'm like I typically wouldn't pay attention to somebody who's just doing
Right.
music.
Right.
But then once you started doing the sales videos, I thought that's funny. I the funniest joke I think it's very funny when you did the are you up yet? You know, you're you're sitting in your truck calling a customer or
Uh,
a potential
yeah.
customer, and that pseudo customer,
Oh
that
yeah.
imaginary customer asks you, uh, are you up yet? Right?
Oh yeah. Now, see your memory. I had to beg you to follow me because one of my shticks there early was that I would get Trittaball. You guys that are really really serious and really really smart, as opposed to me, who's not very smart and obviously not very serious. That I was begging for the approval of guys like you and Trittaball, and in that one video. I was searching for your approval with a follow or a like, and that's the way it got started there. But
So
yeah,
so I think you're just doing this not so much for business. You're doing it just for fun, really, aren't you? I mean, that's how I would read it.
it it's all, Micah. I haven't said a serious thing in 2 years. I tell people all the time when I was a golf course superintendent, I had I had an outlet for creativity. On Friday afternoon, I could drive the golf course and I'd be like, "This is what the staff. This is what I helped instigate. This is art. This is what we created this week." As a sales guy, as a business owner, I have no outlet, zero outlet to to show something that I created. And the reason I love music so much when Christy and I play, the reason I love making these videos, and the reason I do my monthly newsletter, and the reason that I am involved with the Gateway Green for our association is that is an outlet, that is a canvas where I can release all the things that go on in my head every day that I think are fun, that I think people relate to. But Twitter to me has been nothing but me being art that I can share, that I can create, and then I hope somebody laughs. I hope somebody grins. I hope I make somebody's day. Uh, there's absolutely zero intent for me to increase business. It's never even entered my mind. Am I proud of the fact that Greens Pro people know, hey, that's a distributorship, an independent distributor of turf products in the Midwest that has a great reputation. Very proud of that. But still, I want Twitter to be. I want guys to watch a Greens Pro video and be like, that guy's completely ate up. That guy's funny. That guy doesn't take himself too seriously. That guy seems to have a good time. That guy makes me grin or smile. That's been my intent from day one.
Well, I think you're doing a great job with that.
Thank you.
I I think there's a lot of people now who start looking forward to. Um, would it be Saturday mornings in the USA
Yeah, yeah,
when you typically
yeah,
would release a new video?
yeah. And Micah, I would tell you, obviously I've got some time into this. Not a ton of time, but you start doing things no different than I went through your website today, by the way. If
Oh, thank you.
if if people have not visited your website, it is unbelievably well done. So kudos to you and the amount of time and the effort and the passion that you have, Micah. It is fantastic. And my fault that I haven't looked at it, but an incredible resource, but extremely well done to
Well,
do that. But
well, thank you. That is asianturfgrass.com. And
yes,
there's another website that has even more information, and
okay,
that is Pace Turf. So if anybody wants uh, a library of information that it's not just things that Micah is interested in, and it's things that can really help you with your job, and reference information that can
Right.
help, like we talk about large patch and how devastating that can be on zoysia. Well, if you want to find information about the best controls for large patch and reference information about that, check out paceturf.org. And you can also follow Pace Turf on Twitter at the Pace Turf
Right.
handle. And I'm full disclosure here, as of last year, I'm now the
I
owner
know.
of Pace Turf. And so,
Congratulations, buddy.
thank you. Asian turfgrass is all free, and I get to do whatever I want with Asian turfgrass. But Pace Turf, there is some free information there. But for the full access to all the information on the Pace Turf website, you can subscribe for a very reasonable fee of $275 per year, which I think is quite a good value for people. So yeah, thanks for checking out the Asian Turfgrass website. There is
Oh,
a lot of information there, and that is fun. And
yeah.
yeah, if I probably wouldn't use Twitter if I couldn't use it to get more people to come to my website. And it's kind of
Right.
scary. It's kind of scary to me. And one of the reasons why I continue doing these analytics about Twitter is to understand how people are using it, because I get a huge fraction of the traffic to my website comes from Twitter. And so if
Right.
Twitter disappeared, but that's kind of scary for me, because I would have less people
Right.
coming to my website, I'm not really using the Asian Turfgrass website to sell anything. I'm just passionate about turfgrass information, and I want people to have to be able to see that, and so I also have my email newsletters, and I encourage people, you can sign up if you go to asianturfgrass.com, and sometimes I share the email newsletters on Twitter, because I want another way, like a backup way, to be able to contact people who are really interested in what I'm doing, to just be able to
Right.
email them directly with information. So because you get people, sometimes people get frustrated with Twitter, or they don't like the politics on it or something, and they find that they're spending too much time on it, because it can be a little
Right.
bit addictive, and you're just like, what am I doing, just scrolling through my phone looking at stuff that
Right.
instead of interacting with my family or something. So some people, they delete the app, or they cancel their account or something. So for me, I'm trying to use it for business purposes,
Right.
and for fun, but
Right.
mostly I'm trying to get people to understand that I've got some turfgrass information that may be useful for them. So I'm trying to share that, and I continue doing this analysis to understand how many
Sure.
accounts are out there
Yeah.
that are in the turf industry, and how they're interacting with different people's tweets. So
I got you.
I've done this looking at tweets sent for the past 6 years, 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And I looked up the Greens Pro account, which I believe I saw that it started in 2013, I believe.
Correct.
And uh, you have had a astounding rise in the turf Twitter rankings. So in 2017, I did not find the account in the rankings.
No.
In 2018, ranked 4,143. And it was a steady increase. 2019, you're up to 3,250.
Okay. All right.
Then in 2020, you jumped up an order of magnitude all the way up to 377. And
Okay.
then in 2021, you were up to 19th. You cracked the top 20. Uh,
Right.
and then in 2022, this year, you're all the way up to 13th.
Yeah.
So are you going to do you care about these rankings, or you just do it as a joke? Like, because
I
you're sending out some tweets about it, which I think is just a joke, but for all the effort you put into it when making the videos and stuff, you must hope, as anyone does,
Sure,
that you do get recognized for it.
sure. You know, I've got I'd love to tell you I have a ton of time into those videos, and I would love to tell you that they're well thought out, and I spend I bet you I spend 15 minutes a week on those videos. But I think what has happened, Micah, obviously, there is no way with that current algorithm I could ever. I mean, I only have 4,200 or something followers. I really only tweet once a week, and there's no measure in there for videos. Uh, I mean, all I do are videos. So if I could measure who gets, I don't know, the most views, maybe I would rank higher. But really, my favorite part of the rankings is it just provides me fodder to make more fun of myself. So, but I would, at this point, after doing it close to 2 years, no different than what you're talking with your website and the information you put out. When you put some effort into something, are you film a video that you think speaks to people, it's always nice that people A, recognize, B, enjoy, and primarily for me, C, laugh. And yes, so it makes me very happy that I think I'm touching people, influencing people in a way that I find positive. As I've told you, like I said earlier, I just want people to walk away and be like, that guy seems happy. That guy's ate up. That guy seems to have a good outlook on life. That guy makes me smile. So that's all, Micah.
Well, that's wonderful. It just occurred to me you must have been to the GCSA conference and show many times over the years.
A ton. Yeah.
And now that you're kind of turf Twitter famous, and there's a lot of
Right.
people in the turf industry that use Twitter, do you get recognized more often from people who are from all over the world?
I, I do, and that's been really cool. I tell the story all the time. Tim Krieger, my buddy from the Carolinas Golf Course Association, we had that meeting, the Carolina show, right after COVID. And this is my favorite story I tell about Twitter is 2 years ago, my circle was St. Louis, Illinois, a little bit of Kentucky, some of Indiana, maybe some of Kansas, maybe some of Arkansas. And 2 years later, my circle is it's global. And one of the coolest things that's happened with Twitter is if I were ever to meet you, Mike, I honestly, even now more after this interview, I felt like all the people I met in the Carolinas with Christy, I knew them, and it was like a high school reunion. Uh, but yeah, a lot of people last year in San Diego, pulled me aside and say, "Hey, I really appreciate your approach. Hey, I really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you so much. You make me laugh. I look forward to your videos." And to say that's not cool, to say that's not fun, to hear people say, I would be lying. And it makes me very happy that people have been so receptive and kind and genuine with the responses. I can't believe it, Micah, but I've only had about two people over the last 2 years kind of, you know, troll me or say something insensitive or mean or unkind. So I think it speaks a lot to our industry. I think it also speaks to the fact that I really don't touch that many people, and maybe just a small, yeah, maybe just a small symbol of it speaks to the fact that what I'm trying to do is makes people smile, and that's all I want.
Well, yeah, that's wonderful, and I think that there's something there's something nice about Turfgrass Twitter that is a little bit more positive or a little bit more supportive or a little bit more pleasant or a little bit more friendly
For sure.
perhaps than some other segments of Twitter or social media. Not that there isn't some sniping or criticism or behind the scenes direct messaging or
Yeah. Yeah.
conversation talking about
Yeah.
people behind their back or something of like, can you believe what that guy's doing, but I think overall it's pretty positive
I
if
agree.
you for most people. I know some people maybe struggle with it a little bit and then they decide, it's not worth my time. They don't like the way it makes them feel. But for
Right.
me, it's okay. I like the way it makes me feel. I like having connections with people like you that otherwise I wouldn't have met. And for me, it's been
Absolutely.
wonderful also
Yeah.
to meet people from around the world who either either meet me through Twitter or become aware of me through Twitter or through other people who I also have connections with on Twitter have introduced me to those people. So,
Right.
now I know people in New Zealand and Australia and Iceland and the
Yeah.
Czech Republic and Portugal and just Dubai, all over the world, who then they become friends,
Absolutely.
and it's been pretty cool for me, especially. I mean, I'm sitting here in southern Thailand and I'm not going to complain about that at all, but I'm
Right.
sitting here in southern Thailand wearing a Greens Pro hat that
It's crazy.
you sent to me. It's crazy, and then
Yeah.
we can be friends, and I can think about some of the work that I do. I'm an advisor to some companies in Japan,
Right.
some small distributorships also, and you know. I see that they provide good service to their customers. That
Right.
it's very little about selling product. It's just about
Right.
answering the phone, getting back to people, being honest with them, offering
Correct.
high quality products and providing good service, and then caring about them. And I provide support for some of those companies. And when we do that, it's sometimes we're talking about Turfgrass, but we're often just spending time with people and just
Absolutely.
having a relationship with people, and
I
then there's
agree.
some trust involved, and then
Absolutely.
those are the type of companies that you want to buy product from. So I've got a question for you because
Yes, sir.
you're number 13 in the Turf Twitter rankings.
Right.
I'm going to put a link to this post that
Yep.
shows the influential Turf Twitter accounts, and it has a link to a Shiny app where anybody can search for any account that they want. I'm going to put on my reading glasses now and have a look at the accounts that finished ahead of you, and the ones that are clearly related to Turfgrass include I Tweet Turf, which is John Kaminsky; Terry
Right.
Hills Maintenance, which is a superintendent up in New York, I believe;
Correct.
Turfgrass
Thad.
Zealot; Pat Jones Tweets; BIGA, the British and International Golf Greenkeepers Association; CGC Greenkeeper, which is Matthew Wharton in
Correct.
Charlotte; and GCSAA, the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America; and GCI Magazine; and then you.
Yeah.
And so so congratulations on finishing. Like, clearly what you are doing on Twitter is getting a lot of interaction with the way that I do that
Right.
ranking. And you know who we don't see on there? All those accounts that are ahead of you, we don't really see any businesses, right? We don't see any,
Right.
we don't see Aqua Trolls, or we don't see the Toro Company. We
Right.
don't see Syngenta Golf and Turf.
Right.
And I think it's the way that they're using Twitter or social media is it's a little bit boring, to be honest, because
100%.
they're they're putting out product information that maybe I guess people in the turfgrass industry, if they want product information, that's not really why they're using social media. They're not using social media to to download a product label or a product sales sheet.
Right.
And I like the way that you're doing it. And are there other good commercial accounts that you think of off the top of your head that are also using Turf Twitter in a fun way that makes a nice relationship with customers? You think?
I try to. I think there's a Vereen's distributorship, I believe, in the Northeast. I like some of the stuff they're doing. Uh, I think what happens is I think a lot of these big companies, Mike, are paying people to do their social media, and they've got no skin in the game. They've got no relationship with the people they're selling to. They don't understand their customers. And quite honestly, they probably don't even understand the product. And I agree with you 100%. I almost and I say this. I'll look at a huge company that'll make a post, possibly a video, that they paid an inordinate amount of money to have someone make a post, and the thing will get 234 views. Uh, I'll see another company make a post, and it'll get 410 views. I think my approach to, and it's not even marketing, but I certainly think some of these companies could do better by personalizing their approach with their product, uh, and just having a little fun, and maybe using
Yeah.
people who are within the industry. So
Yeah, maybe they're a little bit risk averse to do anything that would be
completely.
to do
I would be
anything.
more than happy to do some social media for Syngenta or BASF or Bayer. I mean, my phone. Give me a call. We'll work something out. I'll work something out with my partners. But
Yeah,
no,
so y-
I,
y-
yeah,
well, you can they can talk with you at the golf industry show, I presume.
we'll do it. We'll do it. But yeah, that
Yeah.
ranking, obviously it was a bunch of fodder, but it's been really cool to think that people are enjoying, as I called it, my shit. The people to think that people watch that and giggle or laugh. I love it. Mission accomplished, Micah. That's what I wanted to do from the get go. So
Wonderful. Well,
yeah,
that is great to hear a bit more about how you're making use of Turf Twitter, and
yes, sir.
we we yeah, for anybody who's interested in these rankings, I'm going to try to do another video, a more technical one, where I work through the code and explain how it really works. So that's not what
Right.
you and I are talking about, but I know some people have asked me like why certain accounts are included, why other ones aren't,
Sure.
how do the rankings actually work, and I don't know how many people are interested in the technical details of it, but I will try to make one of those too. So anything else, Paul, before we sign off here?
All good. I'm disappointed I'm not going to see you in Orlando, but we'll catch up sometime.
Yeah, I certainly hope to be at the Carolinas show this year. So
Okay.
I there's Thailand has interesting requirements for the visa. The
Okay.
visa that I have, and I my visa expires or it renews. I have to renew
Right.
it on a particular date each year, and on that date, I have to be in Thailand apparently. And I'm still waiting to hear from my lawyer, who helps out with this, about
Okay.
exactly what dates I'm allowed to be out of Thailand and what dates I need to be in Thailand in relation to my visa renewal, which happens the same week as the Carolina show. But
I got.
assuming that everything works, I'll be at the Carolina show, so maybe you could be there. I expect
We're
to be
gonna
at
do
the
it.
I expect to be at the Masters. So if you are going to be there, we could say hi.
I lost my Class A status. When I'm not a superintendent anymore, so don't get in free. But I did want to ask you. Uh,
Hmm.
and one of the reasons that I just love talking to you, I love listening to you, is your performance in the Rockstar video when we did the collaboration, all the superintendents across the world. Uh, your just the fact that you're willing to play ball, and you are clearly a very serious, accomplished scientist. But I think the one thing that I like the most about you, Micah, is there is certainly an edge about you and everything I see you do, whether it's your hair, whether it's your style, and where you participated with me in helping. I think that edge and that lack of seriousness that you have sometimes is awesome. Where did you film? Where were you at when you filmed that?
Um, I
Do you
think it's
remember?
called La Conner, Washington,
Okay.
which is on the Puget Sound,
Okay.
and I was in a rental house, and
Yeah.
I think the previous day I'd run a, or maybe that morning I'd run a 25-kilometer trail race, and I'd wanted I wanted to do the video on the ferry because my brother lives on Orcas Island in the San Juan
Right.
Islands, and I wanted to do that out on the ferry outside with the ferry moving, and maybe
Right.
Mount Baker, I think,
Okay.
in the background, and
Okay.
some
Yeah.
and I thought that would be cool, but then it was high wind warning, and
Right.
I couldn't get out on that part of the ferry,
Yeah.
and I thought I probably couldn't even hear the sound to lip
Right.
sync along with. So we did it at the last minute at the rental house over on the
I
mainland.
loved it.
Yeah, it
I
was cool.
loved it.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me to do that, and
I love it.
that was fun. I'll put a link to that tweet
Ah.
in the
Okay.
show notes here. So for anybody who hasn't seen that video,
Yeah.
you want to check it out. It's got a lot of people, and I
Eh,
I kind of I was hoping people wouldn't recognize me. So that's kind of fun. You
Uh,
know, I do a lot of this stuff just like to look funny because I got bored a long time ago when I used to go to the golf industry show or the
right.
GCSA conference every year. I just thought, you know, there's a lot of white men that look exactly
Oh,
like me wearing
I
khaki
agree.
pants and polo shirts with logos
Yep.
on it.
Yep.
And and I thought that's just boring.
Right.
And and it doesn't look, especially now that I work outside of the US and I've worked in a lot of different countries, it's not what the course maintenance crews, the customers, it's not what the world looks like. It's not what my world looks like now. And so I go to the golf industry show, and the more time that I've spent traveling around the world, the more strange it is to see 10,000 white men all dressed in khaki
I
pants and
know.
polo shirts. So I used to, and I always enjoyed dressing up. So I thought it's fun, like make your hair a little bit strange, wear a suit, wear a tie,
Right.
and you'll stand out. And I always wanted to stand out and be exceptional.
Right.
And I've always like, I mean, I wouldn't be doing this, starting my own company in a foreign country and just like trying to make an impact in the world um, if there wasn't like something. I mean, there's something inside of me that makes me want to do that, and I
Absolutely.
suppose that has something to do with me wanting to be a little bit different. And so it's easy when you say, "Could you do this video?" Well, I I definitely took the sound out of that because I don't want to hear anybody. I don't want anybody to hear my singing voice, and I have so much respect for people like you who can uh,
Ah.
can go play
Yeah.
gigs and play
Oh yeah.
instruments and then have a voice that people don't say shut up. I remember, if I can tell a little story, I, as a joke, in Japan, it's common to have year-end parties, which are called
Okay.
Bonnenkai, and so the company might have a year-end party called a Bonnenkai to kind of like say goodbye to the year, and you might do that with some friends or with some key customers or something. So as a joke, I used to go to Japan, and anytime in December when, you know, we'd just say, okay, let's have a party tonight with friends, and I'd call it my company Bonnenkai. And one night in Osaka, I was out with Andrew McDaniel, who is the greenkeeper and assistant general manager at Keio Golf Club in Japan, who's been a good friend for many, many years. I was out with him and his wife, and this was, gosh, well, it was many, many years ago, and I had
Right.
nice hair at the time. We're dressed up, having a lovely time, and we're in a place with karaoke, and I was, uh, drinking as you do at a Bonenkai, and I said, "Well, let's do a Guns N' Roses song," and they actually, you know, 20 seconds or 30 seconds into it, they turned the sound system off so I wouldn't disturb the other customers in this nice establishment. And so I mean, I can't perform. I can perform as, like, let's talk about clipping volume, let's talk about
Right.
MLSN or something. I
Right.
can't
Right.
perform when music is involved.
I hear you.
so
I hear
so
you.
I have so much respect for you to
Yeah.
do music that people like to listen to.
Guitar's been a huge game changer in my life. I picked it up 12 years ago, and Christy is super talented. If she had a legit guitar player, she could go places. But the midlife part of my life, along with the turf Twitter, have been two things beyond work, my children, that have been amazingly positive experiences. Christy and I have played so many different places with guitar, and it has been so fun. We played twice this weekend, still fun, so have a good time with it. So I got a couple questions for you before you get rid of me. Number one, when you see a direct message from me, are you just like, oh my god, what does he want now?
Usually I expect you may be making a request for something. Yeah. Yeah,
All
you
right,
don't you yeah, you usually you're asking a favor, but that's all
that's
right.
right.
I got this lovely
Hey,
hat, so
yeah,
that's
yeah, I
nice.
love it, and you look good at it. And then number two, what do I have to do to convince Joe is it Gulati? Gulati?
Go, it's a hard G, so it's
Yeah,
Galati. Yeah, it's no.
Galati. I
Mhm.
listen to his podcast all the time. What do I got to do? See if you can put in a good word for me with him. I just want to get on there, and I want to hear, so I want to be interviewed from the Brick Rancher,
The killer, yeah, from the basement of the
the
Killer
killer.
Brick Rancher. Yeah, I talked recently with Joe Galati,
Right?
and his show is quite popular around the world, and he's
Oh yeah,
getting better and or
he is.
he's well, he is getting better. But I was going to talk about the way he books the guests. He he's or maybe he's more organized is what I mean. He
Right.
he told me that he has guests booked out all the way into March. So that's 2 months from
I believe
now,
it. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and he does. Nobody really asks to be on the ATC double cut. I have to ask people to get on the
Right.
ATC double cut, or I have to ask people to come on ATC office hours, my shows. But
Right.
Joe is so well known and so popular that people do ask him to be on the show. So
That's
I
cool.
I will make a note of that so that I don't
Thank you.
forget, and I'm going to
You
send a
good.
message to Joe and ask that he have Paul Hurst on, because
I love it.
that would be good, and I think a lot of people would like to listen to that, because is going to interview you about things that are probably more, I don't know, more uh, personal, more
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I
no
was.
fun to tell the same stories over and over.
Oh God, no,
So,
no. And I was nervous that we were going to get really deep into the woods today with some real technical turf talk, which I can hold my own. But I was a little nervous with you. That's how I always talk to Richardson. And I said, let's keep it, working man style here. So
okay, I've got a question for you.
yeah, yeah,
You're a former golf course superintendent.
correct.
You've probably
Hmm.
heard of MLSN, and one of the
Hmm.
questions that I get a lot, people ask me, how widespread is the use of MLSN? Like, what is the do people around the world use it or not? Like, what percentage of
Right,
people use it? And I wonder, in your part of the world, do you hear of people? Because you said you work in 5 states, 6 states or so.
correct.
Is it, what percentage of the golf courses and sports fields and lawn care operators in your region do you think are using MLSN? Is it zero? Is it 10%? Is it half?
I've thought about this question. I talked to Randy Robinson from the GCSAA. He's our field representative here. My particular group of guys that I deal with really isn't involved in turf Twitter, Facebook. I'm not sure why, Micah. I got a few guys around here locally that I call on. This whole other life that I lead on turf Twitter is actually not even known by the bulk of my customer base, and it's not me, but the the accessibility to information or the deep dive into certain things still isn't wildly popular here in the transition zone. In fact, I don't think I have a customer that measures clip volume. And I would tell you, I don't have a single customer that does things the same way. A lot of these guys have their own brownie mix, their own kung fu, I call it, on how they fertilize, the programs they use, what they determine as quality turf. Very little stimp meter measuring here in this area, and I can't explain why. Uh, it's just I think everybody does things a little bit different. But I would probably say 10, maybe 30, 40% of guys know about some of these programs. But as far as instituting those programs, especially now more with labor becoming more difficult, I think a lot of my guys are still focused on hiring people, getting greens cut, getting cups changed, getting ready for the member guest, working on projects. But I think everybody just does it different, and I think that's my best answer to the question is
So less than
everybody.
less than 10% probably for MLSN specifically.
I would probably yes, Micah. That I have. Yeah, yeah.
Do you do well, thank you. That
Mm-hmm.
I think globally,
Mm-hmm.
I think that matches well with what my expectation is globally.
Right.
I mean, you mentioned a couple things uh,
Mm-hmm.
that number one that a lot of people aren't using social media so much,
Mm-hmm.
certainly for work, and that matches well with the Turf Twitter analysis because I find that the Turf Twitter active accounts have been stable in the range of 5,000 to 6,000
Right.
globally for a number of years, and that's nothing. If you just look at the number of people that work in the sports turf, golf and sports turf, and home lawn care, commercial
Right.
lawn care industry globally. Look at how big, look how many people work in that, and
Right.
there's only 5 or 6,000 active turf Twitter accounts. It's nothing. So
Right.
when we are talking to each other, it's a small circle of what the industry really is.
It is.
And I'm not quite sure. Obviously, I think something like MLSN, which is a modern method for soil test interpretation, I think that is a very effective way to prevent nutrient deficiencies to
Right.
virtually guarantee that you won't have nutrient deficiencies and make sure that you're supplying all the nutrients that the grass can use and nothing that you don't need to apply either. So it's very
Correct.
efficient. I really like that, but I don't know how to reach the whole industry because
Right.
if people don't go to my website, if they're not making deep dives into these topics, and if people aren't talking about it at seminars that they go to, and if
Right.
I don't know, but I think I look at this as a positive that so few people are doing it because there's such a room. There is so such an
Ab-
opportunity
Absolutely.
to share these good ideas and things
Correct.
like clipping volume, which you mentioned also. It's no surprise that nobody does it. I didn't do it either. I thought it was silly. I was aware of it since 2000 when I was a golf course superintendent in Japan. I saw people doing it, and I thought,
Right.
what a waste of time. And um, so I understand that everybody, everybody has the same reaction that I did and it takes a long time to finally implement it. But then a lot of people do it and they're like, man, I wish I'd been doing this my entire career.
Right.
So there's still an amazing opportunity to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I've got another question. Who does soil
Yep.
testing in your area? Do you do soil testing, or like
We
how do
do.
your
I go.
clients get their testing done?
I just go through one lab. We just go through. We've got a couple guy that do some istric tests around town, but I would say 5% of my guys soil test. Uh,
You're kidding me. To
no.
decide what to decide if they need to apply phosphorus or potassium, or if
Hmm.
they need to adjust the pH. And
Hmm.
so people make fertilizer decisions and liming or not liming decisions based on not having a soil test. Is that what?
Unfortunately, yeah, yeah.
Wow,
Hmm.
that is it's such an opportunity we have in this
Hmm.
industry to improve the efficiency, because sometimes you can not put products because the soil has enough, but sometimes you can expect an improvement in turfgrass vigor. And perhaps because of that, better traffic tolerance, less weed pressure, and so on, if you did
Right.
apply certain nutrients. So I, yeah, it's exciting. You can see that I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
excited about all the opportunities that we have around the world to do things
We should
even
have
better.
you to
And
St. Louis, and you could talk at our shop tour. I think that would be a huge opportunity for you. I mean that.
well, that would be awesome.
Yeah, to talk
Let's
about.
let.
Yeah,
Why don't you send
we'll
me a
set it
direct
up.
message about that?
I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it, man.
All right.
So,
Well, thanks a lot,
all
Paul.
right, brother.
I will put links in the show notes for all of your for your Twitter account and
I think
for that particular video that I think everybody should watch.
I'll
Um,
spread the word, Micah. And
thank you.
thank
Well,
thank you for thank you for playing ball. I mean it. I thank you for just being open to some guy in the middle of the heartland here who just wants to have a little fun. So thank you very much, Micah. I really appreciate it.
it is good to be your friend, and I look forward to meeting in person. Thank you very much, Paul.
We're gonna do it.
And
Have a good one, man.
congratulations again on your fine performance in the Turf Twitter rankings.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait.
All right, everybody. Thanks
All
for
right. Good
listening.
night, man.
Th- good night. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And I will sign off now for ATC from Yantakao, Thailand. I am Michael Woods.